What if I told you that you do not need more than one WordPress plugin to make WordPress faster? Today I'm going to show you how to speed up WordPress using one plugin that is affordable, has a simple interface, and just works right out of the box with very little setup. There are lots of things that you can do to speed up your WordPress website. 3 big easy wins are 1. Buy good hosting, 2. Set up caching, and 3. Use a CDN. I will leave a link to my favorite hosts in the description below this video. For today's video, we're going to be focused on these 2 things here, and the plugin that we're looking at today does these 2 things. Starting with caching, you might be wondering, what is caching? On the left-hand side, imagine that these are all the different items that make up the pages on your website. So this image is to be shown on your homepage, this image on your about page, this text on your contact page, and so on. Let's say that I went to your website and asked you to show me your homepage. You would need to go over to here and find this image for the homepage and then show me that. And then you would need to go down and find this JavaScript file and this image and show me that as well. And there's also a JavaScript and image that needs to be shown here as well as part of your homepage. What I just showed you is what happens on your WordPress website. Somebody asks to see a page on your website, and then it goes to your WordPress database and gets everything that it needs to load that page, and then it shows it to that person. Now imagine that I'm the first person to go to your homepage. I would go through that process, but this is the problem. The next person that tries to visit your homepage has to go to your database and just repeat exactly what happened before, going through and finding everything to show on your homepage, the result being output and shown to that user. Having to search through your database to show a page on your website is a slow process, and in a lot of cases is actually unnecessary. If we already know that when somebody asks to see your homepage, this is what needs to be shown to them, then it makes sense to just save this over here and show this to everyone that asks to see your homepage. And that's exactly where caching comes in. The first person to load a page on your website has WordPress go to the database and find everything needed to show that page. The result is shown to that first user. Then this result that makes up your page is saved on your web server. And when the second person goes to see your homepage, they see this. The third person sees this, the fourth, and so on. Saving this result and showing it to subsequent users is how caching makes your website load faster. Now let's look at using a CDN. This is how your website loads for people around the world. You have your web hosting, for example, it might be in America. And if I try and access your website from Australia, I need to get all the different website files from your web server sent all the way across to me in Australia. And sending data long distances takes time, and it causes your website to seem slow for me when I try and access your pages. And that's the same for everyone around the world that needs to get your website sent to them over a long distance. And this is the exact problem that using a CDN solves. Using a CDN, your website goes from looking like this over to looking like this. With a CDN activated, you have your web hosting where it initially was in your country, but then your website is cloned to other servers all around the world in different locations. And when somebody tries to access your website, for example, me in Australia, instead of getting your website from America, I get it from the server that is close to me. By having servers closer to where people are trying accessing it, your website will be accessed by sending data shorter distances, which for all your users around the world makes your website seem like it's loading a lot faster, which it is. And you want to combine caching with a CDN so that your website loads super fast. Here's how that works. So let's say this user over here tried to access your homepage. They would load your website in their browser, that would go to your web hosting, go to your WordPress database and produce a cached page of your homepage. That cached page of your homepage would be duplicated all around the world to these other different locations. Next, if here in Australia, I tried to access your homepage, I would access it from this location close to me, and I would be accessing that cached page. So the data travels a short distance, and the actual website doesn't need to use a database, so it loads even faster. So definitely use caching with a CDN for a fast website, especially if you have global traffic. Recently, the best plugin to use to speed up your WordPress website, in my opinion, had a big update, which made setting up caching and using a CDN using the one plugin, very straightforward, simple, and easy to set up. A couple of years ago, I had to speed up my WordPress website by relying on a lot of different WordPress plugins and software. Most recently, I've been using this setup, still with more plugins and services than I would like to use, but with this latest update to FlyingPress, we can now speed up our websites using just this one caching plugin that optimizes our website as well, that has an add-on feature for an integrated CDN, all built by the one WordPress plugin developer. And you only have to install one WordPress plugin to get a really quick website. This here is my girlfriend, and I built her this website for her tattoo business. Her website currently has no image optimization occurring, there's no caching plugin active, and we're not using a CDN. Heading on over to Google, let's search for PageSpeed Web Dev and click on PageSpeed Insights. This takes us over to a Google tool that lets us test the speed of a website page. Let's test the homepage speed, and on mobile we have 72 out of 100, and on desktop our score is 85. Let's also test her about page. On mobile our score is 64, and on desktop we have 71. Let's configure both of these to speed up her website, starting with FlyingPress. Logged into my account on the FlyingPress website, I'll download the plugin. With the plugin uploaded, I'll go ahead and activate it. And with that confirmed, if we scroll down, we can now click to go to the settings page for FlyingPress. And then you just want to go through each of the different settings pages here to configure it for your website. I'm just going to click through these now so you can see the settings that I'm currently using, and they're probably going to be a pretty good starting point for you to use in your own website. We will be tweaking some of these settings in just a second. Let's now go ahead and rerun our speed test to see if FlyingPress improved. Our homepage on mobile is 77 and on desktop is 86. If we rerun our About Us page, mobile is now 91 and desktop is 100. Overall, FlyingPress did speed up the website for desktop and mobile for both pages. But we can also see that there's definitely room for improvement. If you scroll down the bottom on a test result page, it lets you know what the problems are and the things that you can fix to speed up your website. Having a look here, the top two are going to be related to images. If I expand this, it's letting us know that this is quite a large image that is causing our website to load slowly. And then over here, it's letting us know that we're not loading our images in the WebP format. We should be able to fix those issues using FlyingCDN. So let's go ahead and configure that. I'll log into my account. Once you click Add New Site, your site will show here. Then just click View DNS Records, and then proceed as follows. Copy your CNAME, go to wherever you have your DNS and click Add Record. Change the type of record to be a CNAME, paste the name, and then copy the content and paste that in here. You can disable proxy if you're using CloudFlare and click Save. Then copy this IP address, find your A record, and then click to edit it, update the IP address, and then click Save. Then exit out of this and copy your API key by clicking to copy. Under FlyingPress's settings, click on CDN, and then enable CDN, FlyingCDN, paste your API key and click Save Changes. Once your website says active, FlyingCDN is now all set up in your website, rerunning the speed test on the home page. So mobile is now 88 and desktop is 97. And if we test the About page again, mobile is now 94 and desktop is 100. Adding both of those scores into our speed test comparison table, we can clearly see that adding FlyingCDN to FlyingPress in both cases increased our page scores for both mobile and desktop. If you can get above 90 for most of your scores by installing one WordPress caching plugin and copying and pasting an API key for your CDN, and you're not technical, then this is perfectly fine. Don't stress about getting this to 100. These scores are a fast website. However, if you are interested in getting your scores closer to 100 and making your website even faster, continue watching. As you might already know, when you're logged into WordPress, caching is disabled so that you can go and make edits to your website and see those changes here. So when you are testing caching on your website, make sure you're using a private window or incognito. If I access our homepage and right click and go to inspect and then network and reload the page, it's down here that we get a list of everything that's loading on this page. By understanding what's happening under this network tab, you can confirm caching is active, you can fix caching errors, and you can interpret the speed scores better. In FlyingPress settings under cache, you can enable to automatically preload your cache. Under dashboard, if you were to purge your cache, you would see this number reset when it clears the cache, and the number increments as the preload feature runs. Preloading your cache is as if FlyingPress is clicking through all the different pages of your website, and with every page that it clicks on, a cached version of that is generated and saved on your web hosting. If I'm in Australia and I try and access your website, it will see if there's a cached version of your website in the CDN location closest to me. If there is no cached version here, the status will be miss. What happens next is that it goes to your web hosting, gets your website, shows your website to me in Australia, and then saves a version of that in the CDN location. If I try and access your website a second time, it checks the CDN location, it sees that your website is here cached, and then it shows me this version. And the status for that is known as a hit. Knowing the difference between a hit and a miss allows you to determine if caching is working on your website. Under the Network tab, you can filter everything that's loading on this page by the type, so CSS files, JavaScript files, fonts, just images, and you can also filter by keywords over on the left. Let's filter out just the document and then click on our domain name and scroll down. We can see that this page was loaded through FlyingCDN and it has the status of hit, meaning that there was a cached version of this page in the CDN when we accessed it, and we got this from the CDN, not from our local web hosting. In FlyingPress, if I go ahead and purge the cache and come back and reload and click on our domain name and scroll down, we can see that this was served through the CDN, but it had a miss. So we tried to access the homepage, there was no version of that cached in the CDN location, it went to our web hosting, showed us that with the status of miss, and then it saved that into the CDN. Now when we try and access that page again, we should see that there is a cached version in the CDN, so we should see the status of hit, and we will see this version of our website, not the one from over here. So I'll go ahead and reload the page, and then click back on our domain name, scroll down, and now we see hit. We have just confirmed that caching is working. On FlyingCDN's website, if we scroll down, we can see that it is using Cloudflare Enterprise. And on Cloudflare's website, they introduce us to something known as Polish, which is Cloudflare's image optimization product. This paragraph explains how it works. In summary, it's using on-the-fly image optimization. But you don't want to read a whole bunch of text, you want to see a beautiful illustration like this. So here's how on-the-fly image optimization works. You upload the original image from your computer into your WordPress media library, which in turn saves it on your web hosting, aka your web server. When a user tries to access a page on your website and there's an image present, it will go to the CDN to see if there's an optimized version of that image. And if there isn't, it will go to your web hosting, get that original image, and show it to this user. But this is where the phrase on the fly comes into play. Once the original image is given to this first user, the CDN also takes that original image and passes it to Cloudflare Polish, which compresses, resizes, and saves that image to WebP format if appropriate. And this optimized image is then saved in the CDN. I've labeled it here as FlyingCDN, but behind the scenes, it's really using Cloudflare. So now that this optimized image is saved in the CDN, when a subsequent user tries to access that page with that image, it will go to the CDN and check to see if there's an optimized version of that image. And if there is, it will get the optimized version and show it to that user. In FlyingPress's image settings, we have lazy load enabled. If I come back here and reload the page, under the Network tab with our images filtered out, on page load, 4 images were downloaded, they're these file types, and they're these sizes. As I scroll down the page, you'll notice that the lazy loading triggers to download images as they're about to come into view. You can see that over here. That's how you know lazy loading is working. You might be wondering why some images were converted to WebP and others remained as JPEGs. If I click on this JPEG and scroll down, we can see that it was served from the CDN because it had a hit, and it definitely is a JPEG. But from this, we can also see that we asked Cloudflare Polish to compress it to 85%. But when Cloudflare Polish went through its algorithm, it found that the image optimization process was not needed for this image. CF Polished in Cloudflare's docs has its own page. And when the status is not needed, it means that the original image could not be further optimized by Polish. In this case, when we tried to access the website and needed to download that image, it went to the CDN to find an optimized image that was not present. So then it went to our web server and sent that through the CDN back to the user. Then when it sent the original image to Polish tried to compress it into a smaller JPEG, tried to convert it to WebP, and in both of those cases, the original image produced a better result. When CF Polish returns the status of WebP bigger, it means that Polish tried to convert the image to WebP format, but the WebP image was not better than the original. And over here, we can see why WebP might be skipped. And it can occur when the WebP image results in a larger file size or significantly degrades image quality. Also, Polish could take your original JPEG image and compress it into a more optimized JPEG, and this optimized JPEG might be better than the WebP format. So this optimized JPEG image would be shown. This image here appears to be a WebP, and if I click on the image and go to preview, it's this image. If I go to that image and inspect the code, it says in the code that this is a JPEG. Is it a WebP or is it a JPEG? If we go back to headers and scroll down, it was originally a JPEG and it was this file size and it got compressed to 85%, but it is being served to the user as a WebP. In fact, on Cloudflare's docs, it says right here, it keeps the same image URLs and does not require changing the markup of your pages. For the speed test that I just ran for the homepage, it got an 88. And if we scroll down, it lets us know that we lost marks because this image was not served in a next-gen format such as a WebP. And it lets us know that this image is 164 kilobytes, but if we were to convert it to WebP, it could be as low as 49 kilobytes. Under the network tab, if I find that image and we have a look at the headers to see what's going on, we can confirm that it was served from the cache. It was indeed served as a JPEG and not a WebP. And here, CF Polished lets us know that image optimization was not needed. That's why you can't only focus on this score here, because this is based on best practices where it's saying, hey, this image should be a WebP, you could save this much. But in practice, Cloudflare tried to optimize that image and it didn't actually result in what Google is suggesting would be the outcome. I just downloaded that image from my WordPress media library and tried to compress it over here, and this lets me know that it can't be made into a smaller JPEG. I also tried converting this JPEG to a WebP and it resulted in a much larger file size. So it looks like Polish letting us know that this image does not need to be further optimized is true. In FlyingPress's JavaScript settings, we can choose to delay specific JavaScript files, or we could opt to delay all the JavaScript files on our website, excluding these ones. I'll click Save, and as we have no exclusions, it means every single JavaScript file on our website is going to be delayed. I'll run a speed test, and now our homepage for mobile is 95, which is a big improvement from the 88 we saw earlier. In our network tab, filtering out just JavaScript files, let's reload the page, and you'll notice that on page load, no JavaScript files are showing. But if I put my mouse over here, they all load. But once I start clicking around our website, I'll notice that things are broken. This should trigger dark mode. And so while in the eyes of Google, your website's faster than ever before, in practice, delaying all your JavaScript files will probably result in some issues in your website. To fix this issue, in the network tab, I'll search for dark, and this is the JavaScript file that handles toggling dark and light mode. I'll get the name of this JavaScript file, paste it in here and save. If I reload the page, you can see that's the only JavaScript file that loaded. And once I move in the browser, all the rest load. And if I go over to here, I can toggle dark and light mode correctly and it works. We can click over to here to enable responsive mode. And I'll open up the menu and I'll notice that that's not working. I built the menu using Bricks Builder, so if I filter all JavaScript files by the keyword bricks, there's this JavaScript file, so I'll click on that, and then I'll copy the name and add that to the list of scripts to not delay, and reload the page. And down the bottom, you can see both of those files are loading without delay. And if I test the menu, it's now working. What I normally do with these two options here is start with delay all. And by default, there's no scripts that I'm going to delay. I'll save this, go to my website, reload it, and then I'll go through all the different pages and see what's broken. So for example, when I came down to my single product here, these images weren't loading. So I went into the network tab, filtered by JavaScript files, and just went through them one by one to see which of these I thought was related to my images. So if I search for photo swipe, that sounds related, I added that keyword in here. And that fixed the issue. I also noticed an error here where I would click to increment the quantity and that wasn't working. Now I know that this product page is built using Bricks Builder and this is an element inside of Bricks. So up here I searched for Bricks and then I saw this file here which is located in the Bricks Builder theme called WooCommerce.min.js, which sounds related to the WooCommerce incrementer. So I added that in here. And by clicking through all the different pages of my website, adding products into the cart, going through my entire checkout process, and testing my website on my mobile phone to make sure everything was working there, I ended up with this final list of JavaScript files to exclude from delay. I click Save Changes, and now my homepage for mobile is giving a score of 95. Google's page speed scores are a great guide for making your website faster, but a score of 100 might not always be better.